Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. Hope everyone had a great Christmas, and we're not taking a break, so getting a little slack from my wife there. But anyways, we're right on to the next episode. And how's everybody's holiday?
Excellent, Nick. Excellent. How was yours?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Still recovering from getting ripped for an hour and a half last week by Ben and Stacy. So thanks. How about you, Sean? How was your holiday?
It was good. It was good to see family. You know, it's still COVID time, still a little weird, but it was good. Good food. So, and it's always better like when Chris is on a Saturday. It was great. So,
yeah,
it was good.
It's definitely awesome. All right, so just make sure that we like, follow, subscribe, share our page, do whatever you can to get people listening, and we really love the interaction. Leading off tonight, we're going to talk about what we think the best defensive play of all time was. There's so many to choose from. We have a few queued up here, and we're going to share some of our favorite ones. Starting off, Harrison, you want to start off with yours?
Yeah, sure. So I'll, if you'll indulge me, I'm going to show my favorite play. I'm going to show a quick little reel of some others that kind of show why I picked this person. So let me just pull this up. Let's start with probably one of the best known catches of all time. So I'm going to go with Jim Edmonds' Game 7 of the NLCS when he was with the Cardinals. Let's go ahead and roll it.
So crazy.
It's the ground he covers too. It's unreal.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy starts in right center, makes the catch in left.
Yeah, it's insane. And this next angle shows it best.
Left fielder?
Yeah, this next angle shows it best. He covered like a third, if not more, of the entire outfield to make that catch.
And as crazy as this catch is, it's like not even probably crack his top 5. That's the crazy part.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's more the clutchness of this catch that really preserved. I mean, because if you're a Red Sox fan, you recall who they played in 2004 in the World Series. It was these Cardinals who unfortunately got wiped out. But just to get there, you know, in a series that really, I mean, you had everything working against them.
Yeah.
Edmonds makes this huge Game 7 catch.
That guy was a weapon, man. Back in his prime in the early to mid 2000s, he was a weapon.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But if you'll indulge me, let's look at a quick little highlight reel of what Jim Edmonds has done. As Nick said, it may not even be in his top 5 catches of all time.
I think this is the one I'm talking about earlier. When he goes straight. He lays out straight over his head.
Back into the plate.
Insane.
Yep.
That's unbelievable, dude.
There's no way that should be humanly possible.
I mean, he looked
no way.
Dude, do you know?
No, he looks like a wide receiver trying to track a pass.
Like
tracking the ball directly over your head while running full speed and not falling over.
Yeah,
you guys don't know how well you guys do, but like people don't know how difficult that is. Look at this.
I mean,
first off, where's that left fielder?
Right.
It's still sitting on the line.
He's got a better catch that comes up here in Cincinnati.
Stop
Lord. This one here.
Yeah, no, he's got one that comes up in Cincinnati where he actually like hangs over the wall and makes it's insane. I mean, for those of you that are in your 30s, you'll remember Jim Edmonds patrolling the outfield. He was so good for so long.
It's like, I mean, people talk about Griffey, but this guy was, I would say, even another level above Griffey. I don't know if it was because, listen, I mean, Griffey can't make that diving catch straight back over his head. There's no way.
No, maybe not. But here's my thing with Griffey. I think Griffey almost.
Here's one of the catches.
Yeah. Oh, I think Griffey almost loses some of that like stellar play, like wow factor, because he makes everything look so smooth.
Well,
like
smooth
Griffey,
and he's faster. He's fast. He can cover more ground.
But things Griffey made things look so easy. I think, is this the Cincinnati one you're talking about?
Yeah, this is the one. Yep.
Look at this.
He goes up and over.
Oh.
Brings it back.
And also completely unrelated, but the navy blue St. Louis Cardinals hats, so sick.
Yeah.
So sick. So much
fun. Oh, agreed.
That's stupid right there.
Griffey made things look so easy. Like Jim Edmonds is like kind of not to say he was any slouch athletically, but like
No.
he made difficult catches look difficult. Like Griffey somewhat made them look like almost easier. So he almost loses some of that wow factor.
Yeah, Griffey had like an effortlessness, like an ease to his game that, Edmonds was out there, max effort every play. Griffey was just like gliding around out there making catches like that.
Man. But it's like, like Randy Moss.
Speaking of Griffey.
Yeah.
Like Randy Moss would sit there and, he would make it look like Randy Moss never got caught from behind. Like this guy was one of the fastest dudes ever, but it looked like he wasn't trying. So he wasn't that,
that catch was actually in the World Series.
No, I mean, I agree with that. And I was going to get there,
here's the one on the hill.
Up the hill.
Up the hill. It's crazy.
That's the stupidest ballpark feature ever made, was that hill in center field.
Yeah. I mean, Jim Edmonds, no doubt, one of the best defensive players I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, I'm not dissing Griffey, Stacy.
No.
Okay? I'm not dissing him. I love Ken Griffey Jr., but I feel like Jim Edmonds was constantly it was like every night you turn on SportsCenter, oh, here's another web gem from Jim Edmonds.
Yep.
The thing with Edmonds is that he would go make a play on a ball most outfielders would give up on. They'd be like, I'm not getting that, and they get ready for the bounce off the wall, or start to square off to turn and throw. He wouldn't give up on it. He'd go track it down.
Yeah.
Right.
Crazy. My defensive play that I picked was Mark Burley's kick save over to the first baseline, glove flip between the legs, bare hand by the first baseman. I mean, insanity. This entire play is just crazy. Kick save over to the first baseline, between the legs, bam. And that was opening day.
It's like a circus play.
They did the web gem of the year, and it was opening day, and they're like, well, I guess we just found the web gem of the year on opening day.
Dude, he could try that 35 times, and 34 times he flips it over into right field. The fact that it's
crazy.
That it lands so right, the fact that it lands so softly for the first baseman there to barehand it,
right.
Yeah, that was a crazy amount of things coming together all at the same time. And then, of course, Konerko was like, I'm just going to catch it barehanded to make it look even cooler.
I don't understand why he does that necessarily, because the glove would get him a further stretch.
Right, but I think where he would have to go all the way across, he would have to reach his glove into the first base path.
Yeah, that's true.
Do I think in order to stay away from the potential interference.
Yeah,
and also that quickly, I don't know. That's
and also for the visual for the umpire, I think catching on the right hand side makes it easier for him to see when you actually grabbed it.
Yeah.
True. I mean, you guys when the ball's in foul territory as a first baseman, you want to stand in foul territory.
Right.
Right. Yeah. That you want to stand on that side of the bag to make the throw easier, to make the visual for the umpire, everything.
Yeah. Cool comment from Doug. This audio clip, I actually found it. And one of those, when he goes into the wall hard, you can actually hear the clip of him saying that's going to hurt tomorrow. And there's another clip where the one where he dives kind of back up over his head and he's grabbing his wrist. You can actually hear him scream when he hits the ground on that catch, because he actually did jam his wrist pretty bad on that. But still gets up and finished the game.
Yeah, right. Probably didn't miss anything. Guy's an animal.
Just kept playing.
So the second one that I kind of threw in there that also has to do with Mark Burley was Dwayne Wise to save Mark Burley's perfect game in the 8th inning against the Tampa Bay Rays. Oh, that was definitely Gabe Kapler for sure.
Oh yeah, totally Gabe Kapler.
Shouts to you, Sean, for remembering it was Gabe Kapler.
Right?
Yeah, that was impressive.
Looking at that swing, you're like, yep, that was definitely him. But the crazy thing there is it's not the flashiest of robbing a home run, but just the magnitude of what he saved for Burley. And he was juggling it on the way down. He didn't catch it cleanly.
No, he almost drops it.
Right.
Right.
He stays with it.
And as we were saying right before we started recording, right, Dwayne Wise was just put into that game in the 9th inning for defensive purposes. That was the leadoff batter in the 9th inning. So he was just put in cold off the bench. That was the second pitch he saw in the game, and he went and robbed a home run. That is unbelievable.
Crazy. I mean,
unbelievable.
those two plays just really stick out in my head. I mean, there's many, many more, but those two, I love those two plays. Jose Iglesias, we've talked about before. That guy's just a walking web gem. But
Omar Vizquel back in those days with Cleveland.
Well,
I mean, how many of those
Vizquel,
can you
Ozzie
put on the
Smith,
list?
Roberto Alomar. I mean, there's so many good. The 80s, 80s and 90s had so many amazing defensive players roll through.
Brooks Robinson set the bar of how to play third base.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about him when we do our Baltimore Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But dude, I mean, that guy was something. I mean, obviously, from what we see, we weren't allowed to watch him play live. But you know, from the highlights and the numbers, like unbelievable.
Yeah. So what was your top pick, Sean?
I would say probably like the best one I would say of all time was probably Willie Mays. That famous Willie Mays, like over the shoulder. You know, back when plays like that were not made. Like those were not plays that you made back then. Obviously, I didn't see that like in person, or not in person, but like I wasn't alive to see it. I would say probably at the beginning, it was probably like right at the beginning I started watching baseball. The one I would probably have to go with one that I saw was Kirby Puckett in the World Series for Minnesota, scaling the plexiglass out there in like left center field. I mean, this guy was like 3.5 feet tall. Right. Yeah. And like he had to have jumped 12 feet in the air. Like he skied for that ball.
Crazy.
And we talk about magnitudes of catches, like late in the game, like what a catch that was. Yeah, this one, I mean, unbelievable.
So they say he said, Willie Mays says the best thing about this catch wasn't even the catch. It was the throw back in.
Yeah.
Because he's 480 feet away from home plate here.
That's a long way.
Grounds. He's on the warning track of the Polo Grounds in center field, dude. That's 500 feet around.
Yeah, it's nuts how far he went.
Crazy.
Yeah, but it's let's not, like, if I could say to Willie, let's not underestimate the difficulty of that catch, though. Because like we said, back in 1954, people were not making those catches.
No.
Like that wasn't, that's not a regular occurrence in today's game. It happens more frequently, but not on a regular basis. I mean, for him to make that catch in the World Series, unbelievable, just unbelievable.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Notice that Derek Jeter didn't make any of our lists because I think we've had this discussion before, but I think both of those plays are completely overrated. I know Sean disagrees with me on one, but the one in Oakland where he flips to the catcher, like, was it a good play? Yeah, sure. But he was completely out of position. There's no reason. Honest.
Yep, go ahead, finish, sorry.
I was just saying there's no reason why he should have been where he was. It panned out, and you can see him just standing around the pitcher's mound. Like, why are you standing around the pitcher's mound? Like, there's a base to be covered, and you're not covering a base, and you're just kind of floating to the first baseline, which it's a heads-up play to see the overthrow and the flip, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing to begin with.
And in full transparency, if a play like that happened today and they go to replay, I'm not entirely sure Giambi was tagged.
Right.
Like, and to be full transparent, and I'm not saying 100% he wasn't, but like, I can certainly be convinced that he wasn't. Like,
Yeah.
So all that being said, that let's play plays out the exact same way, except he's called safe. Like, no one ever remembers that play regardless.
No, it's a big nothing.
Right. So, which I guess you could say about, a lot of plays, but in that one in particular, because like, what's he doing? Yeah, PD saving Buckles' no-hitter was, what a play that was too.
Yeah, let's
Did you have that queued up? There we go.
I do. Absolutely filthy.
What about that one that PD made off the overthrow in Texas? It like overthrew the first baseman. It bounced off the wall. He dove and like had to like grab it and flip and pick the runner off from. He was gonna go to second.
I don't remember that one.
Oh my god, that one was crazy. Let's see if I can find that one. But yeah, it was like an overthrow of the first baseman, and then the runner started taking off for second. So PD had to like dive for it and like throw him and pick him off from behind. It was
PD. We talk about. Is this the same play? We talk about like guys like Jim Edmonds, like the craziness of the play because of the magnitude of it. Like PD always seemed to come through, whether it be offensively or defensively, like whether it was to preserve a no-hitter or like just the team needed something for like a kick in the ass or something.
Yep.
Like that guy always just seemed to come through with like a play where you just kind of look around, you're just like, fucking hey, let's go. Like let's go now, you know? Like he was just in a clutch and even above that, like it was just something about him.
And I want to run that Puckett catch that you mentioned too, because I think people don't really appreciate what Kirby Puckett did at his size.
Yeah, he was not a big guy.
No, and they had this crazy plexiglass in Minnesota. He had to like sky to.
Yeah, look how high up he got.
I know, and he was not exact. And then he throws a seed back in that almost doubles him off.
It's crazy.
But they'll actually zoom in and show his leap. It's pretty impressive.
It's exactly. The leap is almost the part that blows my mind just because of the size of him.
Yeah, this is nuts.
Just watch this jump.
And the hang time.
Jesus Christ. That defies physics, gravity, all of it.
That guy had a wagon ass too, huh?
Oh, he did. He was a ball with arms, legs, and a head on him.
He had a wagon. Look at the size of his legs.
I was just gonna say, right now he's not really chunked out like he was later in his career, but holy hell.
Yeah. Whew.
All right, I found the Pedroia clip. Let's see if we can see it on here. So it bounces off that side wall, and he like catches it barehanded and flips it all in one motion.
I mean,
as he's diving.
like the guy was just heads up baseball. Like there was just some things that like it didn't make sense. The guy was just heads up baseball.
Yeah.
You know, that's all you can say. I mean, it's like, hey, tip your cap. I mean, the guy just made an instinctive play. Like he was just crazy like that.
Yeah. The other Pedroia one that's overlooked because of how it ended was that World Series when the infield was in and he dove to throw the runner out at home, but then they threw it back to Middlebrooks, and then there was that runner's interference that ended the game.
In 2013.
Yeah. That play that he made, like
when the ump wasn't even looking. Like it's very obvious the ump wasn't looking. Yeah.
Yeah. This might be the most underrated play of all time.
Yes.
Listen,
yes.
It's a great play, but Manny has another underrated play that you guys know I love.
Yeah. This is the best baseball clip of all time.
This is
hands down.
Absolutely one of the best. People cannot figure out what's happening right now until you actually and then you see the effort that Manny put into making that cutoff that he didn't need to make.
Right. Even the Orioles are laughing about it.
Even Damon is like shaking his head right now that Manny Manny cut that.
I would say like between the three of us, there's been a lot of baseball games and practices played and gone to. I have never, ever played. I have never played for a coach that has the left fielder cut off the center fielder in any instance.
No. Now, granted, Damon did not exactly have a great arm, but that was probably an unnecessary cut.
So I think the only reason he went over to cut that was because he was going to back him up if the ball went by him on the wall.
Yeah.
And he was just already there. So he's like, hey, dude, let me throw this in for you.
Unreal.
Oh, my God. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Unreal.
Oh, my goodness.
So, you teach the Manny play to kids in Little League. Yeah. Sometimes those kids do need like the double and triple cut. But
God, it's bad.
Manny's arm was slightly better than that of a Little Leaguer, but I don't know if I'd go saying it was too much better.
Oh, man. Yeah. All right. Oh, God. Well, do we got any more? I mean, we could go on this for hours. I sent you guys the Bo Jackson one where he's flat-footed and just hoses Mike Gallego out at third from like the right field corner at Yankee Stadium, like crazy.
You had Bo Jackson running up the wall, Bo Jackson running through a wall.
I mean, that could be a whole nother. That could be a whole nother segment. Is just like best throws ever made because there's it's fun. Even from like catchers from like behind the batter. Yeah.
Yeah, just run a highlight reel of Vlad Guerrero. I mean, that guy would throw seeds from the wall.
Goodness gracious. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the fifth inning showdown where we are going to argue, well, not we, Sean and Harrison are going to argue who was the better MVP this year. Was Ohtani like the overall MVP or was Bryce Harper the overall MVP? I am going to kind of put my word in here or there, but they each have one. Harrison has got Ohtani and Sean is defending Harper. So let's see what you guys got for this debate. Who would like to go first?
Harrison, you go first.
Oh, you're gonna throw me out there. All right, so here we go. All right, so I had I had Ohtani, which I was probably the most vocal person against him winning the MVP. So probably fitting I have to try to defend him now. So I guess looking at Ohtani, 2021, he's a 9.1 WAR versus Bryce Harper's 5.9. Even if you take the pitching out, basically they were even. Ohtani was just a hair ahead on the WAR. So basic metrics aside, Ohtani did have statistically the better season. But when you actually dive into what happened, so when you actually compare their batting stats and looking at batting alone for the moment, when you go in and look at the actual batting stats, Bryce Harper had a way higher average. He had a 50-point higher average. And it all came from batting average on balls in play. Everything else with the two of them was pretty much straightforward. The difference is when Harper put the ball in play, he was more likely to end up getting a hit out of it than Ohtani was. And that was a full 56-point difference on batting average when the ball was put in play. And a lot of that came from he tends to hit a lot more line drives, where Ohtani tends to hit a lot more ground balls, fly balls. So if you look at Ohtani's swing, he's really a kind of a drop and drive kind of hitter. So he's going to hit a lot of fly balls, where Harper tends to hit a lot more line drives, which also explains the difference in power and metrics like that. So when you look at Ohtani, offensively, pretty even. They had similar advanced stats. One interesting thing with Ohtani, though, when you look at what he does at the plate, so he's got a higher exit velocity than Harper. He hits the ball harder than Harper. He hits it harder, more consistently than Harper. He hits, clearly more ground balls and fly balls than Harper. He also spreads the ball around better than Harper, which I found surprising. So overall, as a hitter, Ohtani brings more to the plate than Harper does. Harper is just a line drive, largely pull hitter. Ohtani's a much more balanced hitter, much more consistent contact, much harder contact. And then ultimately, then you throw on top of the fact that as a pitcher, he was actually better than the league average in every metric. Pitched 130 innings, had a batting average against of just over 200. Gave up a home run in less than 3% of at bats, which is a half a point better than the league. And for the most part, he exceeded every pitching statistic league wide, the averages, and gave you 130 innings on top of a very solid offensive season. So if you actually set the stats aside for a minute, when you look at bat by at bat, Ohtani gives you more per at bat. He just doesn't give you the average because he tends to loft a lot more balls.
Okay. Sean, your opening argument?
Okay. No, I mean, Ohtani had a good season. I mean, no doubt, great season. I mean, the guy won MVP, and I had him winning the AL MVP. Yep. So, I mean, I was a big Ohtani guy going in. But I tell you, Bryce Harper, for me, for what he did this year for the Phillies, was kind of I'll be honest, this isn't even just for the sake of the argument. Like, I've actually kind of changed my mind around. I do think Bryce Harper was more deserving. I had Ohtani and Soto in my predictions. Mm-hmm. But I definitely now think, like, looking through it this past week, like, Bryce Harper deserved that damn MVP for the National League. And probably if they had to give a league one, I would put him a little bit ahead of Ohtani. I mean, the average is higher, Harrison. You definitely talked about that, and there's certainly reasons for that. But I mean, let's not ignore. I mean, the guy led the league, not just the National League, led the league in slugging, OPS plus, had 42 doubles, scored 100 runs, 101 runs, 100 walks. I mean, it was the first, second, third time in his career. 2015, he had 124. 2018, he had 130. And then 2020, he had 100 walks even. So the guy's getting on base. He had a 429 on base percentage, Scored, where are we here? Oh, I said the runs, 101 runs. So what do we got here? We have 151 hits. We have 100 walks. That's 251. I couldn't find how many times you reached on error, but let's just call it around 251 times this guy got on base. Scored 100 times. That's pretty good. I mean, this guy's getting on base. He runs the bases very, very well. I don't think his steal numbers this year weren't as high as they've been. He had 13, but he had 20 a couple seasons. He had 18 in 2012. So it certainly wasn't his highest number of stolen bases, but 13 is nothing to sneeze at for a guy that hits in the middle of your order. Runs the bases very well. And then he does give you some. I mean, I'm not going to go out on the limb and say Bryce Harper is a great defensive player by any stretch. But I don't think he hurts you. I don't know what those advanced numbers are. Some of those I think are a bit kind of fugazi. But he doesn't really hurt you when he's out. Yeah, right. Yeah, go close. You know, and I think the big thing for me for Bryce Harper is he's going to strike out. You know he's going to strike out. 134 this year. I mean, that's a lot of strikeouts, right?
Yeah.
But if he's not striking out, he's getting on base and he's making something happen. He's not, he's not avoiding a strikeout to be stranded on first base with a 2-out single. Like this guy's either striking out, which can hurt you, or he's getting on base and he's making something happen. And the power numbers are there, and they're still there. The one thing you worried about Bryce Harper when he was younger, I mean, 2015, he had a 650 slugging, which is disgusting. But he is over 600 this year, which is just, I mean, so that Philadelphia team won 82 games. 82 games that Philadelphia team won. Yep. And Bryce Harper was the reason why they won 82 games.
I was going to say, like, who else is on that team to drive him in? Reese Hoskins and JT?
30,
that's it.
Was 30, 35, am I right? Yeah, 35 home runs and 84 RBIs. I mean, we're talking about largely solo home runs because guys are not getting on base.
Right.
And I would love to know what the league average is of what home runs are solo versus what home runs are with guys on base. And I would guarantee you he hit more solo home runs than what the league average is telling you.
See, I don't know about that. I would say that the league average is actually really high for solo shots. Think about the league approach. Just think about the approach to hitting lately. Like no one's hitting to get on base. Everyone's just trying to launch.
Yep.
Let's see.
I mean, that would be my guess. I would be shocked if there was more 2 or 3 run homers than there were solo shots.
See, I'm only saying that though because the average of I shouldn't say average because I don't know what the numbers are, but just the strategy of everyone trying to launch is true, but especially when guys on base, no one's trying to get guys over. Like there's no get them over, get them in philosophy in baseball anymore.
That's
so
true.
You get that leadoff guy on, or you get that second batter, you get 1 out, 1 on. I mean, I don't care if it's the 9-hitter or the 1-hitter. They're trying to go Yabo every single time.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how I would look that up.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to look that up.
But it would be interesting to see. But not to get too off here.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think Bryce Harper, to me, the numbers are close between him and Ohtani, but
so let's just say this is 2020, so this is just a sample size. Found an article. Right. There were 1,325 solo home runs in MLB's 2020 regular season. So that's 59.5% of the 2,304 total home runs hit in the regular season. Obviously, the 60-game season is a lot shorter, but
it's a sample size.
It's right, and it's more than 50%.
It's roughly 60%.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it was going to be that much more.
Neither
but
did
that's crazy. But
yeah.
All right,
I mean, I just think with what Harper did, I'm giving it to him.
Okay. So
if you go to the advanced stats a little bit, so you look at Ohtani versus Harper, you've got Ohtani homers in a greater percentages of bats. He strikes out more, 189 Ks to 135 for Harper. That's the major difference between these two guys is the K amounts. But Ohtani hits more extra base hits. He has more extra base hits. He hits home runs more frequently. Extra base hits at kind of roughly the same clip. He has he hits a home run in 2 less at bats on average. He gets RBIs in fewer at bats, and so generally, his at bats are generally more productive than Bryce Harper. Facing the same thing Harper is, Ohtani had nobody in that lineup with them this year because Trout missed more than half the season, and that lineup was atrocious. They won 77 games, so both teams sucked. It's hard to say either one of them was really most valuable on 2 teams that didn't matter. But then when you start to dive into some of the situational stuff and you look at how these guys perform when it matters, Bryce Harper grounds into way more double plays, has fewer productive outs, and advances runners less frequently. And it's because his approach is one of basically just, I don't care what the count is, the situation is, I'm just going to grip and rip. Whereas Ohtani generally situationally had what seems like either better awareness or just better success in being able to advance and keep things moving.
Well,
but ultimately,
I just think he has a much more complete approach to hitting.
Yes, I would agree. Harper's grip and rip. Ohtani's a little bit more thoughtful in his approach.
I mean, and that's what you get when you sign in whatever Bryce Harper. I mean, that's what you're getting. Right. You're getting 140 Ks. You're getting a ton of double plays, but
and his approach changes because he knows he doesn't have anybody to drive him in. Like he's like, I literally have to be the entire offense.
Right.
And I mean, I'm sure Ohtani kind of felt like that. It's true. He has.
Sure. Like, I'm not so sure, like, regardless of what his teams were or not, like, I'm not so sure he ever had a different approach.
No.
At the plate.
No, he's been the same way since he was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 16. He is all or nothing.
Yeah, I agree. So I think I know the answer.
I'll tell you this, though. I'll tell you this real quick. He had 12 double plays that he grounded into in 2021. Without looking that up, if you told me to guess, I would have guessed higher. And I don't know what that says about me, but I would have said, only 12? Like, that's not – I mean, I remember I'll have to look it up. I'm pretty sure he had a year where he had close to 20.
I bet.
Well, 15, actually. He had 2 years at 15. That's the highest he got. So not as close to 20 as I thought. But
yeah, he grounds into a fair amount of them.
For reference, 12 was lower than what I would have guessed, which is crazy.
I could ground into 12 double plays in one game. Like watching. But yeah. So I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but who has helped their team the most to get where they were? To finish where they were. I mean, did Ohtani make an impact, or did Harper make an impact?
I think you have to say Ohtani because offensively he was even maybe a click behind Harper, but then he was also a very effective pitcher on top of it to a team that had no pitching and literally with Trout out, literally no offense. There were games when it was Shohei Ohtani versus the other team more often than it ever should have been.
But I mean, they still finished fourth. So would they finish behind the Texas Rangers if he wasn't there? I mean, that division's really not that great other than the Astros. I mean, they still finished fourth. Does Ohtani's impact even help the Angels at all?
The one thing that I would give to Bryce Harper and say I'm with you on that, Nick, is they still lost the division by 6.5 or 7 games to Atlanta, right? Roughly that number.
Right. Yeah.
Without Harper, they're probably down like below the Mets, and the Mets were 77 and 85. So he was probably a good 6 or 7 game difference. And what was his WAR? 5.9, right?
Yep. Yeah, 5.9.
So I mean, I would give it. That's what I would say. That's an accurate WAR.
Yeah.
For how I would put it. I know they have these crazy metrics coming up with it, but I would just look at Harper and say he's probably 6 or 7 wins. They're probably third place behind the Mets at 74, 73 wins without Bryce Harper.
Yeah. And the Angels finished 77 and 85, 18 games out. They would have been probably 28 games out without him, and down there with the Rangers. So
he won 9 games as a pitcher, right? 9-2.
Yeah, and then he was, then whatever he contributed offensively too. So in theory, he's probably good for a dozen games. But would they have fallen below the Rangers? No. Would it have mattered because they were already out of it? No. So I mean, both of these teams with Bryce Harper, they missed the playoffs by 7 games. With Ohtani, they missed it by 18. They missed Trout for 2/3 of the season. If you add Trout back, they might have tied with the Athletics. It's, neither one of these guys had that significant an impact on their team where it got them, into playoff contention or not.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of the record, Ohtani had the biggest impact, although it still doesn't matter.
Right.
Well, I just think, to me, and another thing that this is what sold me kind of for Bryce Harper, right? If you look at what his 162 game average is off his career, starting in 2012, right? His average is about 280 as a hitter. He hit 309. His average for walks is 105. He was right on there pretty much at 100.
Yep.
His average for stolen bases was 14. He's got 13. His average for home runs was 34. He had 35. His average for doubles was 34. He had 42. So he was either hitting or above what his year in and year out average was at the major league level. So he's been there since 2012. So we have a good sample size of what Bryce Harper is as a player.
Yeah.
And he exceeded.
Right.
He met or exceeded every metric that he's had as an average for his career. So that's doing that on a team that didn't have much else, in a division that was playing in a division with the team that won the World Series. Now, granted, they didn't win 100 games, but that Braves team is a damn good team, right?
Yep.
They came together at the end very well, no doubt. But I just think for what Bryce Harper did, that was, he played his best baseball this year, which to me that kind of put him over the top for me.
Yep. And the same is true for Ohtani. He set individual records in basically every category, from games all the way across. He was the rookie of the year in 2018. He played in 104 games. 2021 he played in 155 games. He had almost double the number of at bats, plate appearances. Set career highs in every single statistical category, except for batting average. He was down a click, but his power was way up. So both of these guys had their best years. The difference is Ohtani did it on both sides. And Ohtani's actually 2 years younger than Bryce Harper, which I didn't realize the age gap was that big. I thought they were basically the same age.
I mean, I've been going back and forth listening to you. I'm like, yeah, Ohtani's got it. And I'm like, you know what? Harper's got it. It's so hard because, none of them really helped their team. They had great seasons, don't get me wrong. But, when I'm not like the writers, I feel like valuable should be yes, Bryce helped his team win more, and so did Ohtani. But if you're in the basement and you're kind of still in the basement, it's kind of hard to pick. Who had the greater impact? Harper doesn't have a lineup, but Ohtani doesn't have a lineup either, and probably didn't get run support when he was on the mound. So, man, I'll go. Goodness gracious, this is hard. I'll go with Ohtani,
the hard thing.
I think.
I think the dual threat. The ability to, and it wasn't that he just pitched. The guy won 9 games. If he pitched and won 4 games and lost 7, that would be one thing. He went 9-2 on the mound. That's the, that's kind of the tough thing to.
9-2 with a 3.18 ERA, and he had 156 Ks and 130 innings. It's
right.
It's good stuff. Yeah, I think I have to lead to Ohtani. I hate that Angels organization for him right now. Honestly, I really do.
It's so bad.
It's only going to take a couple more years before, I don't know if Trout is going to want to stay. I know he signed that huge extension, but if he gets healthy and he's not winning, then he's going to want out.
I don't know, man. I've said that for years. I think it's the perfect place for Mike Trout, in the sense that this dude loves to be just anonymous. He's not a big personality. He doesn't want the cameras on him at all times. He hates to be interviewed. It seems you never hear clips of him.
Right.
So I just think he's so happy to make his money and just be in the baby brother of the LA Dodgers. It's just, he's not the Dodgers, but he's in LA, really, kind of.
Yeah. He's
Yeah,
not a spotlight seeker for sure.
No, so I don't I just think he looks at it and maybe at the very end of his career, in order to finish it off and cap off the Hall of Fame career with a ring, maybe he'll go somewhere at the end. But that's just about the only time I see him leaving.
Right. I should see that. All right, so we'll go with Ohtani. It was a good debate. But you guys both great arguments on both. Like I said, I was going back and forth. I had no idea who I was going to choose, but yeah. All right, we'll go on to 7th inning stretch, where this is our new Mount Rushmore. We're going to start in the AL East. Harrison has the Yankees and Blue Jays. Sean has the Red Sox and Orioles this week, and then I have the Tampa Bay Rays. So we'll start with Sean. You want to pick go with the Red Sox or the Orioles?
I'll start with the Orioles. It's just,
okay, go ahead.
Just as either one the same. So the 4 for the Orioles, I think are pretty, I don't want to say universal. But I think if you guys would probably have the same 4, I had Cal Ripken Jr., Brooks Robinson, Eddie Murray, Jim Palmer. Those are my 4. Pretty tough to take a 5th one. I had Frank Robinson in there too, but I ended up going with Jim Palmer. Mainly because 3 out of those 4 guys, which is crazy, 3 out of the 4 of them had like 20-year careers that were all with Baltimore. Like that is insane.
It
you know,
is.
and I know it was different like back then, but like just the sheer like that's crazy. Like Ripken had 21 years all with the Baltimore Orioles. 9 out of those 21, he played 162 or 163 games if it was necessary.
Yeah.
Like what? Yeah. Insane. You know, and you go through, and I do think like if you take like a quick gander without like diving deep into it, if you take a quick gander, like just go across the Baseball Reference or whatever the website is, there was not many years where he led the league in any category.
No,
but like there was a lot of years where he was top 10 in a lot of categories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so he never kind of had, but that goes to show you the competition that he had in the American League. Like he just played like against a lot of good ball players. Like he was just in an era that had a lot of really good baseball players, guys that hit well, guys that played really good defense, guys that got on base, guys that ran. Like it was just like, it was a tough kind of environment. Well, not environment, but a tough era to really kind of go in and dominate year to year. But man, this guy, I mean, obviously Iron Man, but I mean, this guy was insane. 9 out of 21 years, he played 162 or 163 games. Crazy. Yeah. And they were good Baltimore Orioles teams. Like he was not, they weren't in the basement every year. You know, those were good clubs.
No.
Brooks Robinson, again, guy 23-year career, all 23 with Baltimore. They had some success, those teams. I mean, talk about World Series teams, really good success in the American League East. 16 out of those 23 years, guy won a Gold Glove. All 16 were in a row. Fucking crazy. Like, don't ever talk to me again about Gold Gloves. That is insane. Absolutely insane. The guy won an MVP. I was a little bit surprised. He was like a career 270 hitter, which is like nothing to totally sneeze at, but like he wasn't like an offensive monstrosity. But you know, the 16 consecutive Gold Gloves, he won an MVP. Nuts.
That's why he's in the Hall, is because of his defense. It's not offensive numbers.
Completely deservedly so.
Absolutely.
And then Eddie Murray, third guy, he had a 20-year, 19-year career, 21 actually, maybe got up there at 21, 22 years. 13 years with Baltimore, so still nothing to sneeze at for what this guy did. He had 12 consecutive years, and then he ended up going back for like 1 year at the end, so that equaled 13 years. With Baltimore, not talking career, but with Baltimore, guy hit 343 home runs, which is nothing to sneeze at. It's pretty good. 1,224 RBIs just with Baltimore alone, too. So, I mean, this guy was a machine when it came to the plate, driving runs in. You know, and he was a little bit before my time of like watching those games live, so I can't really give like any firsthand remembrance. But highlights are crazy. And then you just, you know, you read some things online about like people in Baltimore, like this guy was just a clutch dude. Like he was just a guy that would come through for them time and time again. And then his career batting average with Baltimore was like 298. So he was pretty much a 300 hitter with that kind of power and
switch hitter.
Switch hitter too. Yeah, absolutely. And then Jim Palmer, 19 years, all with Baltimore. Guy won 3 Cy Youngs. He led the league 3 times in wins. 1977, I found this crazy. Guy had 22 complete games in 1977.
Wow.
22 complete games.
Jeez.
22.
Yeah, that's insane.
There are some really good pitchers in baseball that don't have 22 career complete games. Guy had 1 season.
Yeah, it's like Bob Gibson numbers.
Unbelievable. So yeah, those are my 4 Orioles.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got the 4. I mean, I would have added Rafael Palmeiro, Brady Anderson.
Brady Anderson, really?
No, I was just naming the steroid guys.
Jesus. Okay. Okay. All right.
I was gonna bust your chops for the same thing, but I figured, no, I'll let Nick do it so he can catch crap.
Yeah,
I was even gonna nod on Rafael Palmeiro. Like, all right, I'll give you that. But Brady Anderson, shit.
In one season, man.
Yeah.
One roid-induced season.
Yeah. All right, Harrison, who do you want to go with?
I'll start with the Yankees.
Okay.
I just want to get it over with.
Yeah.
Blah.
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, granted, you could put 20 heads on the Mount Rushmore for the Yankees, given their history. So, my first choice is Babe Ruth. You have to go with the Babe. He basically put the Yankees on the map. That whole organization changed when that trade was made, and he came to New York, and Boston went right down the tubes. New York became the dominant powerhouse for the next 70 years. And it's the house that Ruth built for a reason. He was the catalyst to getting that organization on the right track. So, Ruth, you have to talk about Lou Gehrig. One of the most memorable Yankees of all time. That speech is still, it's still played constantly across baseball. It's one of the most memorable baseball moments of all time. Third would be Mantle, another player who won, I think it was 5 or 6 World Series titles in the time he was there, 18 seasons, all with one team, an all-time Yankee. And one of the few names that when everybody, even not baseball fans, know the name Mickey Mantle and know the association to the Yankees. Yeah. And then lastly, probably the most recognizable face in team history is Derek Jeter. The captain is probably their most recognizable face to any Yankee fan of any age. And probably the most kind of the shining example of what being a Yankee is supposed to be, and how he carried himself and what he did on and off the field. So to me, Jeter is the lead head on Mount Rushmore for the Yankees.
Yeah. Like you said, there's so many you could put on, but Mariano Rivera and Joe DiMaggio,
I so badly wanted to put Rivera on here, but I couldn't find a spot for him.
Yeah, right. You can't. I mean, you can't argue with those at all. All right, so I have the Tampa Bay Rays, Tampa Bay / Devil Rays, whatever they are. So number 4, I have Aubrey Huff. Aubrey Huff had 128 home runs with the Rays, 500 RBIs, and hit 287. Not a flashy name, but statistically, he was one of the best hitters that the Rays have had.
Guy's a crackpot, though. Guy's a nutcase.
It doesn't matter. John Rocker's on my Braves team, so it doesn't matter. Okay. Number 3, Scott Kazmir. So Kazmir was Scott Kazmir was an ace. He was a workhorse for the Rays for quite a while.
He killed the Red Sox. Even when the Rays stunk, he would come into Fenway and kill them.
So bad.
So his ERA was 3.9, not great, but in the AL East, back when he was pitching, the Rays weren't necessarily that great either. So that's still not bad. He was 55 and 44, again, 500 record. But when you have the Rays behind you, look, he had 900 Ks and a 1.39 WHIP. So I mean, he's number 3. And then number 2, Evan Longoria. I mean, kind of goes without saying, they gave him the biggest contract in Rays history when they first came up. I think it was 13 years, and they absolutely murdered that kid. They gave him such a crappy deal, and Longoria signed it. He was playing for under $1 million a year, wasn't he, for 13 years?
Something like that.
Something like that.
But he had 113 home runs with them, 400 RBIs, and hit 275. And then number 1, even though I don't like the guy because he came to the Red Sox and he was terrible, is Carl Crawford. He's their number 1. What?
Sorry, go ahead. I'll go ahead. You finish.
He has 104 home runs, 600 RBIs. He hit 300 for them, 410 stolen bases. And if you remember, he stole 6 bases in one game against the Sox at Fenway.
That was awful.
It was insane. Listen, there's a couple other guys I have on that I was struggling with, like McGriff, David Price, Carlos Pena, and BJ Upton. But Aubrey Huff's numbers were better than all of those guys, and David Price can shove it.
I'll tell you. So I was David Price. To me, was the one I was shocked you left off. I'm not saying David Price should be one, because I don't think he should be one on that list. But I do think Price belongs on there. I agree with Doug. I think Price
here we go. Here comes the segment where everyone starts ripping me.
Wait. No, wait. Look at that.
Yes,
Stacey gave you some credit this time.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Whew.
I say Price belongs on there over Aubrey Huff because the numbers might be what the numbers are, but that team was like a basement dwelling team when Aubrey Huff played for them. David Price was that team drafted number 1 overall from Vanderbilt. All the pressure, came up young, came out of the bullpen, was great in the playoffs that year in 2008. Like that team went to a World Series. They lost. Yes. They went to a World Series. Like that team would like stop becoming a joke, and they were like, "Oh wow, like you got to worry about the Rays. You got to watch the Rays. Like they're young, they're talented." And like David Price was the cornerstone of that. Like it was Price and Longoria.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. But I don't like David Price. I mean, what he did for the Rays and what he did for the Rays, you're right. Like it turned the corner for the organization. So he should be up there, but he's not because I hate him and I think he's a push.
Hey, it's your choice.
So
it's your choice.
But yeah,
it's just wrong, but it's fine.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, moving on. We got back to Sean. Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stacey's right. You're wrong, Nick. But ultimately, it's sad that those are the names. Those are the names we're arguing over because that's all Tampa's produced.
Right. Yeah. I mean. Yeah. I mean, sure, fine. We'll take. My mountain's not etched, so we'll take Huff down and put Price up. Everyone's happy. Okay. Moving on.
I actually don't disagree with you, Nick. But it's They had a few players that were instrumental in that run they had. That Price wasn't the only guy, but
right. But yeah. All right, back to Sean. You had the Sox, right?
I did, yeah. This was a tough one for me, obviously, because kind of growing up being a Sox fan, like there's kind of like the Yankees. Like there's a ton of guys you could put on that list. I don't think
it's only 4 right ones, and if there's one I don't like, it's wrong.
Fair. I want to hear it. It's not, like there's 10 guys. There's 11 guys. There's possibly 12 guys that you could kind of pick there. So it's kind of hard for me, but I went with and I didn't necessarily go in order. I guess I could kind of on the fly go in order, kind of 4 through 1. But the 4 I had, obviously, I had Ted Williams, David Ortiz, Pedro, and Yaz were the 4 that I had. And the one that was kind of, I wouldn't say difficult for me to put on, but one that I really kind of had to rationalize was Pedro, only because Pedro only played like 7 years with the Sox. Like he had a good, decent sized career as far as like length was concerned, but 7 years with Boston. But those 7 years, man, were like you don't you don't see that until DeGrom comes along in 2019, and that's not just because I like to suck off DeGrom. Like that's like those are facts. Like you just don't see seasons like that, and so I kind of couldn't bring myself to, and I would have probably replaced him with Manny. Like Manny's my 5th one, but Manny kind of similar way, like similar kind of story. Like Manny didn't have a 15-year Red Sox career either.
Right.
But anyways, I mean Ted Williams, like how do you? I mean he's obviously number 1. If anyone didn't have him as number 1, you're wrong. 19-year career, similar to those Baltimore guys. Guy played all 19 years with the Red Sox and probably should have had 22 years. I mean, he missed 3 years because of the war in the prime of his life. His career
the dude came back from war and hit 401.
I mean,
it's freakish.
And I don't even like. You can pick one of like 7 seasons to be like, oh, that's a disgusting season. He had like 7 of those. His career batting average is 344. That's astronomical.
Yeah.
it's 344 for a career over 19 years, not 344 over a 3-year career. 19-year career, this guy hit 344. Obviously, 1941, we all know about that, the 406 season. Led the league. The craziest thing to me was, this guy was a phenomenal hitter, led the league in batting average a ton of times, and this guy led the league 8 times in walks. 8 times. He had over 100 walks in a season and led the league in walks. So not only was he a great hitter, not only could he put the ball anywhere he wanted it, phenomenal knowledge of the strike zone and his ability to make you throw it where he wanted it or he wasn't going to swing. Like, just didn't chase pitches. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. 12 times he led the league in OBP, 9 times he led the league in slugging. So he wasn't just a single slap hitter. I mean, this guy was, put a charge into the ball. He's probably the best Red Sox player. I would say number 1 on the list. Got to be. It's a shame he never won a World Series, but that's who I'm going with number 1. Number 2, Yaz, similar guy, 23 years, all with Boston. Another one where it's a shame this guy couldn't get himself a ring. But I mean, this guy's career, also with the Red Sox, is just littered with league-leading numbers here, there, and everywhere. You look at the time he won the AL MVP in 1967, played 161 out of 162 games, scored 112 runs, 189 hits, 44 home runs, 121 RBIs, which is just crazy. Guy batted 326. Yep, batted 326, slugged 462, had 360 total bases, which is just, get out of here, But yeah, that's just one of them. But that's the Triple Crown year. I didn't count them up. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18 out of 23 years. The guy was an all-star. I know that kind of voted. It's kind of like one of those weird things, but still, 18 out of 23 years. It's Ever heard of it? All-star game, pretty good. Pretty tough to keep Yaz off that list. The third one to me, David Ortiz, a little bit. I kind of had to go with a guy. I don't even know if the numbers back it up, but this guy was so clutch so many times in so many situations. For the early, like that 2003, 2004, 2007, like those teams, like they just needed him, and he just stepped up time and time again. And then he did it again in 2013. And then he did it again in 2018. It's like, all right, this guy's just ageless. Like, he's just going to show up when it matters. He did have, it's nothing to sneeze at, the numbers, right? The guy hit 483 home runs as a Red Sox, drove in over 1,500 RBIs as a Red Sox, and he hit 386. So, those are not like.
You mean 286?
Like, those are
or did he
286.
286.
286. So that's just, so those are not numbers to sneeze at. But, it's just, to me, it was the clutch moments. It was the back-to-back game 3 and game 4 and game 5 against Mariano.
Absolutely.
It was those. It was the
grand slam against the Tigers with a security guard holding it.
13, but you even go earlier, the divisional round in 2004 against the Angels, when he went opposite field over the monster.
Yeah.
And he had another walk-off against the Angels that kind of gets overshadowed because of the 2 against the Yankees. Like, this guy just stepped up when it mattered. Like, it was just, you can't really say much more about that. And then Pedro was my 4th. And again, I know we talked about only 7 years with the Red Sox, but with the Red Sox, right? So in those 7 years, the guy had 117 wins. He went 117-37 in those 7 years. Like, that's insane. He won 3 Cy Youngs. He won one in 2000. He won one in 1999, and he won one in 1997. 97 was with Montreal, but he won in 99 and 2000. And I know the 99 season was dominant, all that 23 wins, 4 losses. 2000 was probably might have been a better season. Like 18-6. We didn't lead the league in wins, right? He had a 1.74 ERA.
Yeah, it's stupid.
1.74.
Yeah.
1.74. He had 7 complete games, which didn't lead the league. 4 of them were shutouts.
Yeah.
He went the distance 7 times, and 4 of them were shutouts.
Yeah. There was times when Pedro was on the hill, like the hitters shouldn't have even gone to the plate because they didn't have a chance.
When they were video game numbers.
Yeah.
He had 284 strikeouts that year. He pitched. He pitched. What do we look? 217 innings. He had 284 strikeouts.
Jesus.
I mean, goodness gracious, Pedro.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those are my four.
Crazy.
You know, I would love to put Manny on there. But I don't know who I would have knocked off. Probably Ortiz, but I would have felt bad. I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't put Ortiz on there. So that's my four, and I'm sticking to it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue with any of those. I can't think of anybody else that. I mean, personally, I think Veritek. I love Veritek and what he gave the Red Sox in his tenure, but I don't think he's up there. Veritek's my favorite of all time, but I don't think I can put him up top four. But
dude, if we did like Mount Rushmore of like dirt dogs, Veritek, Pedroia, Nixon, those guys. But like
Troy O'Leary,
we're talking like the elite of the We're talking elite of the elite. I mean, it was tough to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, interesting feedback from Stacy. You know, when you think of face of the team, you know, a guy like Jerry Remy, although he did like nothing as a player, really became the face of that organization for a lot of years as an announcer. So,
absolutely right. I mean, even Johnny Pesky, you know, before
Goodwill ambassador.
Yeah. So, all right, and then the last team, Harrison, for you.
All right, so the Blue Jays. So, welcome to Rogers Center in honor of the Blue Jays. So, first pick, I don't think I have to tell you who it is, but I'm actually just going to show you who it is.
So the tying run is at second. The run that would win the
This
World
might be
Series
one of the most memorable moments in all of Toronto history.
It's in baseball history, man.
Like that's every kid's dream.
Every
hit the walk-off.
Is that the last World Series to win on a walk-off home run?
The only one.
Only one, yeah.
One out of the ninth.
It is the only one.
5 Philadelphia. Stottlemyre
Yeah, that's
and
it.
Castillo throwing in case of
Wow,
extra
thing, Mitch Williams.
Yeah, just absolutely wraps it down the line. I love this angle of it.
Joe Carter.
But that is like every kid's dream to have that at bat, make that swing.
And the Toronto Blue Jays.
So
win the World Series.
That place must have come unglued. Oh.
So the Jays were actually hard because similar to what you were mentioning before, Sean, there's a lot of really massive impact players in their history that weren't there for that long.
Right.
Obviously, first choice is Joe Carter. That's a no-brainer. That is the most memorable moment in Blue Jays history. He's the most memorable Blue Jay in their history. Although statistically he was barely one of their top 5 players of all time, but he is absolutely the most memorable. Number 2 for me was Roy Halladay. Guy was there for 12 seasons, wheeling and dealing.
That's a good one.
12 seasons, wheeling and dealing. Most of us remember him after he left Toronto, but he was so dominant in Toronto for so long, and then went on to bigger and better things. Number 3 for me, and this was a hard one because I really didn't want to put him because he was only there for 5 seasons, but it was probably 5 of the most impactful seasons, and he was key to their success in '93, but also in their near success in '92, and that's Robbie Alomar. Most people don't remember he was a Blue Jay. What's even more interesting is that the Blue Jays traded away McGriff and I forget who else for Alomar and Carter.
Yeah.
And so these guys came into town, the whole organization shifted. He played 5 of arguably the best seasons a second baseman's ever played. He hit 480 in the '93 World Series. He was in '92. He carried them through the ALCS, although they didn't end up winning that year. But in 5 seasons, he is still regarded as one of the best players in Blue Jays history, and at a minimum, their best second baseman they've ever had. So I had a tough time putting him with only 5 seasons, but when you look at the seasons he had and the impact he had, and also what his trade brought to them, it really changed the entire trajectory of that organization. And the last one for me, this is more of a personal choice because most people would say pick George Bell. He was the '87 MVP, and a lot of Blue Jays fans remember him. But my next choice is Carlos Delgado. For a whole generation of Blue Jays fans, generation of Blue Jays fans love to talk about Carlos Delgado on ESPN every night. Guy hit 30 home runs, 10 seasons in a row. 8 of those were in Toronto. he was 100% the face of that organization the time that he was there.
Yeah,
So although he may not have had like the biggest impact because they won nothing while he was there, he is one of the more memorable Blue Jays because he was good for a while. He was, kind of embedded in that organization, the face of it, and at least for my generation, he was like one of the most feared hitters, and he was in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Delgado's got to be on there. I agree.
Yep.
I mean, I think I would have removed Alomar and put John Olerud in there personally, but I love Johnny Olerud, and he was a big part of that World Series team too. But I mean, it's hard. I mean, Robbie Alomar is a Hall of Famer, so hard to, And if I took Robbie Alomar off there, he'd probably spit in my face. So.
The two guys I struggled with were George Bell because he was so dominant for a few years.
Yeah.
But other than those few years he was kind of an okay player for the 9 seasons he was there. And the other player I wanted to put on there for the same reason as Delgado was Jose Bautista. I mean, another guy who brought attention to that organization, was a highlight every night.
On the receiving end of a right hook from Rougned Odor.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he still tastes Odor's fist in his chin.
Cool.
But another guy who just wasn't there long enough to really make a significant impact. But for many years he was the face.
So it would be offensive and defensive highlights. I mean, this guy had an absolute gun.
Yep.
From right field. That would be a good one too.
All right. Let's go on to yes, all right. We're on the same page here. I love it. This week
everybody loved John Olerud.
My goodness, I love it. All right, so before we move on,
I believe just fun fact on Olerud, I believe he's the only player to get called up to the major leagues without actually ever playing in the minors.
Oh,
interesting.
I did not know that.
It's a weird fact to know, but interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna pick our teams for the AL Central. So I'll get 2 teams this week. Who else wants 2 teams this week?
I'll do the one.
All right, so then Harrison will get 2, and then Sean will do the one.
What a gentleman Sean is. He'll volunteer to do one.
I'll do the one on the shitbag division of the AL Central.
This is such a trash division.
Strategic.
All right, so
such a trash division.
So we'll pull up the Wheel of Doom here.
The Wheel of Doom. Yeah, I like that. Let's pull up the Wheel of Doom. So let's see.
All right. So then we'll have Harrison can get the first one here.
Yeah, so let's go. We got all right. And I put the Guardians, although I'm doing it under protest.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
I hope
yeah, I probably will now.
So this is Harrison's pick. There it is. Keep going.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Got it.
Let's go.
You got it.
All right. Well, it'll be an easy one because there's nobody in the Guardians franchise.
That's right. I can recycle Roberto Alomar, so that's good.
Right. All right. This one's for me.
For Nick.
All right. All right.
All right. Okay.
I'll take the White Sox.
I'm gonna end up with the damn Tigers. It's gonna be my one.
Oh, that of the Royals. For Sean. Sean's getting. Yep. Called it. Bam.
Unbelievable.
All right, and then Harrison's got
my second. I'll get the Royals now because I made fun of them.
Yep.
Oh, stop.
Yep, Royals.
Yeah, give me those Twins. All right, and then I got the Twins. Sweet.
Let's see what Nick's final option is. What's he gonna get?
My luck will be the Angels.
Guardians and Royals. Can we put fewer heads on the Mount Rushmore? Man, oh man.
It can be combined.
Yeah.
Combined.
Can we do a divisional Mount Rushmore? We might need that.
I'll allow it. All right. So we are now going to move on to our rounding third segment, where we put out the question for the best Yogi Berra quote, and everybody, there's a lot of responses from that. So we'll start with them. We have Brent Allen. He said, Nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded.
Yeah. Love it.
So good. Stacy answered in. She goes, "Love is the most important thing in the world, but baseball's pretty good too." So good. My father-in-law, Dave, he wrote, "It's like deja vu all over again."
Love it.
It's so good. I just lose it. Mark Williams said, "It ain't over till it's over."
That's a classic.
That everyone
That's probably
uses
his
that one.
most famous one, probably.
Yeah. And then this one from Morgan Sawyer from the SOS podcast, he goes, "I'd give my right arm to be ambidextrous." I can't with these. They're so good.
So somebody I know said to me, and this actually isn't a quote I'd ever heard Yogi Berra say. The quote was, "Always go to other people's funerals, otherwise they won't come to yours."
Yeah. I had that written down as one of the ones too.
I'd never heard that one before.
All right, Sean, what's your favorite one?
Probably along the lines of the one your father-in-law, but I just like the one he said you could observe a lot by watching.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good, Yog.
What about you, Harrison?
I've one of my favorites always been the story about him at the restaurant where he tells the chef, "You better cut the pizza in 4 pieces because I'm not hungry enough to eat 6."
Yeah. So I have 2 that I really love. My first one is catching a perfect game is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I've done it twice.
Oh God.
And then the other one is baseball is 90% mental and the other half is physical.
Yep.
Classic Yogi.
Yeah, and then it's getting late early out here. Said that one a lot, but goodness.
We didn't even touch on the most common one, which is when you come to a fork in the road, take it.
Yep, that one's.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's another good one.
Yeah.
That's
so good. There's so many out there, but yeah, had pretty good responses to those.
He was lining dudes up. He's at spring training, and he's lining guys up, and he's telling everyone to pair off into 3s.
Yeah, pair up in 3s. Yeah, and his other one was, why
3s.
buy good luggage? You only use it when you travel.
Yeah. The thing is, I guess, like when they asked him about these, like people would be like, "Hey, Yogi, like, say one of your Yogi-isms," and he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Like, this is just how I talk."
Right.
I mean, the guy had a 3rd grade education. I mean, that's what you get.
I was gonna say he wasn't a very educated guy.
Yeah.
No, but you know what's amazing with Yogi Berra? The guy, he appeared in 14 World Series and won 10 of them.
I know. It's insane.
It's like, what? Is that real life?
Insane.
Holy cow.
Whew, that was a good laugh. I needed that. All right.
I love Yogi Berra.
It's so good. All right, heading home now. Last week we did which teams have won free agency. Now we're going to talk about which teams we think have lost free agency so far. Who would like to start with this one? Who do we think? So this is the stipulations on it. The teams had to have made a move that we don't necessarily like, that we think is a loss, if that makes sense. So if the teams that's just sitting stagnant, like, obviously they're losers. But teams that have made a move but really didn't do it.
Red Sox? I mean, shit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
I mean, and I get that they're kind of, especially like recently, like they don't go out and make a bunch of early splashes in free agency, and obviously right now we're kind of paused. So I obviously with that understanding, but I mean they let Eddie go, which I don't know how I felt about it. Like I think I'm okay with it, but it's also like that's all he got. Like you could have matched it, and it's also like I don't think he was as bad. Like he was pretty good. I don't know. Like I'm kind of in between on the Eddie thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there was the trading away Renfroe to bring JBJ back, which I just don't. I mean, obviously the other shoe has to drop. Like there's a reason that they did that. Like Heim's not stupid. Like Heim's done a good job of evaluating talent, and he's not looking being like JBJ on his own makes us better. So like there was a reason the other shoe's going to drop. It just, as of this point, it hasn't, and they're a worse team on paper today than they were a month ago.
Yeah. I mean, so Rich Hill, James Paxton too. They're not great signings, I don't think.
Yeah,
the
right,
moves make
right.
no
That's
sense.
the team for me so far.
Yeah. What about you, Harrison?
So I think for me the two teams that have lost the most, that just by standing pat, are the Dodgers, which are experiencing a mass exodus, and the Yankees, who have just done nothing, which is unlike them.
Yeah,
But to me, the team that's actually lost free agency in the moves they've made is the Tigers.
absolutely.
I feel like Baez was an overpay for a second tier free agent. You needed Seager or Correa. You needed a cornerstone franchise player, and Baez ain't that.
So
Erod,
I did read that they offered Correa 10 and 275, and Correa was like, "Yeah, no."
yeah, it's a laughable offer. It's
Right.
either they don't have the budget for it, or they're not in touch with the marketplace. But they basically settled for Baez with big money, and that's going to be a disaster. Erod's a nice piece, but he's a 3 starter. Maybe a 2 in that rotation, but he shouldn't be a 2 unless he gets back to his old form, which they're banking on him being the guy he was in 19 when he won 19 games. But
And who knows, in the Central, Erod might be lights out.
he could be in that ballpark against those horrendous lineups. Maybe he does surprise us all, but even then,
Well, I
like
think the big
that
thing with
you take those guys in the playoffs, you're not gonna go
No.
deep with a
I
team
think
like that.
the big thing with Eddie, I think, is just like health. Like, how many games is he going to pitch? Like, if
Right.
Eddie starts 25 to 30 games for you, like, you're going to get good Eddie, because if he's
Yeah.
healthy and he's starting every 5 days, that means he's got his good shit, and
Yeah.
you're going to get good Eddie. Like, so the thing with him is just like the ability to get on the mound and stay on the mound.
Yeah.
Which obviously remains to be seen, but
Yeah.
to me, that's the big thing with him, more than the stuff.
Yeah, and I think the Tigers are a better team today than they were at the end of last season. I think they've improved. I think they've just missed an opportunity to build a lineup that will be good for a long period of time, that's sustainably good. I think they've built a lineup that's going to be, better than mediocre for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, it was such a fruitful free agent class. They could have made better signings than that. I mean, unless they just have that much faith in their young guys coming up that they don't want to plug the top. You know what I mean? They don't want to put people at the top there. But yeah, I don't know. Another team that I think has lost so far is the Miami Marlins. So they've made they signed Avisail Garcia to 4 years, $53 million from the Brewers. And I mean, like, does he move the needle? No. They traded for Joey Wendell and Jacob Stallings. They had Jorge Alfaro, who is a serviceable catcher in Miami. Like, you're not really getting much with Jacob Stallings. And then they just re-signed Alcantara, which is one of their top starters, which is fine. But, I mean, they didn't move the needle. I mean, Joey Wendell doesn't move the needle. Jacob Stallings doesn't move the needle. And then dumping $53 million for Garcia is a question mark move. I don't understand that.
I mean, I do think. I mean,
Yeah.
I know we are in that pause. I think the one thing that I think we owe it to ourselves and to some of these teams, like the Red Sox. I shouldn't be so quick to judge.
Right.
And even the Marlins to an extent, with Jeter being the owner, and I think the GM, I think she certainly knows what she's doing. Like,
Yes.
I think to not be so quick to be like, hey, like, once they resume, whenever they resume, like, these people definitely have a plan. Like, there are some front offices that don't have a plan, and they should get shredded. But I think, like, the Marlins, the Red Sox, like, they definitely have a front office that has a plan.
Yeah.
So it's just, being patient for those fan bases to be like, all right, like, it sucks, but, like, let's see kind of what the plan is and watch it unfold.
Right.
But
no, I mean, I totally get that, and I understand that completely. When having a big pause in the middle, it does just look like, what the hell you guys are doing? What are you doing?
Sure.
But
and it's tough because there are teams like the Tigers, for instance. Like, I don't think there was a plan. Like, I don't think there was. Like, I think their front office kind of panicked, and throwing that kind of money at Baez, like, I think is proof that, like, that was a panic move. And that was a panic. Like, holy shit, we offered Correa this, and he said no, so we got to go get a guy. And that's a panic move.
See, I
definitely think there are teams out there that don't have plans.
Yeah, I think the Mariners also fall into that group right there too, because like signing Robbie Ray is great. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think they're done. Like,
right, I agree.
They could come in and still get Story. I mean, they're looking at Story too. They're looking a couple other places too. So I don't think the Mariners are done by any stretch. I don't think the Red Sox are done by any stretch.
And I don't, and a team that we talked about last week that did well, the Mets, and they're not done, and they've done a lot, and they're not done yet.
So yeah, there's talks. Chris Bryant goes to the Mets or the Mariners. Those are the two teams I've heard rumors from. So
I mean, we're going to see. It's going to be fun. I mean, hopefully, it opens back up soon, but it doesn't look like anything anytime soon. But whenever it does, it's going to be fun to see kind of that frenzy, because it's going to be a frenzy as soon as it's allowed back up again. It's going to be kind of crazy.
Yeah, you need to sign these guys and get them down to spring training like ASAP. Right, exactly. So it's going to be nuts.
And you have to believe Deshaun's point about, these front offices having a plan. This work stoppage certainly short-circuited a lot of those plans. It likely will be a frenzy when they come back, because they're all battling for the same group of remaining players in a shorter window to kind of finish their roster build out. So it's going to be interesting to see which GMs and which organizations can draw the attention of that remaining pool of free agents to actually finish off what they're trying to do.
And they've had time to think about it too. It's like, and it might drive the prices even more up. Like, it might be smart for Brian and Correa to hang on until after, and like all these teams are just bidding. Like,
I'll tell you what, I think it might be one of those scenarios too where we might see teams that we wouldn't necessarily expect walk away with the free agent that kind of shocks everybody, because this is one of those, like, you're either going to get into a really big bidding war where it's just like Knicks, it's just one or the other, or we're going to have like front office guys like GMs and front office people who make really targeted, well thought out pitches to these guys to be like, listen, like, this is why you want to come here. This is our plan. We're going to lay this thing all out for you. And like, this is why you want to come to Boston. This is why you want to come to Seattle. This is why you want to come to Miami, right? Rather than just like throwing offers at the wall, like what typically seems to happen, like, because we have such a short period of time, like, I'm just going to lay out my plan. I mean, that might work. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. But
and keep in mind, the two biggest checkbooks in the Yankees and Dodgers haven't done anything yet.
True. Yeah,
so
true.
Those are going to be GMs that feel the. Oh yeah, those are going to be the GMs that feel the pressure of their fan base in the biggest way. LA is expected to have this mass exodus. It's already started. They're going to be all over Friedman to spend money to replace players, and it's going to be a wild ending to free agency, I'm sure.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind taking Kenley Jansen off the Dodgers' hands for the Red Sox.
Yeah, bring him.
Well, the rumor is Jansen's told the Dodgers he's not interested in coming back.
Well, good for him.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. He'll look weird with no facial hair in New York, so he should just come to Boston. But, all right. Well, that will do it for this week's show. Again, please subscribe, like, share, and keep interacting with us. We love the interaction in mid-show and even on our page during the week. But yeah, thanks for watching. Have a safe and happy New Year, and we will see you guys next Monday.
See everybody.